Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shemel Shai. And give double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone that rule well. Salutation to the men of the Hopeful and Saints elect. There's a brother Marcus out here in Trinidad. Just want to do a little edification for the elect's sake. And the name of this lesson would be Proof Eliminates Doubt. Proof eliminates doubt. Alright? And basically, as you could see, if we begin with the Christian doctrine or in Islam or Rastafarianism, majority of these, groups, they basically run based off of, custom and doctrine of men and nothing that they could prove. A lot of times you go in church and, everybody, their Bibles will be closed, and the pastors, his Bible and all will be closed and quoting scriptures. All right. Growing up, a lot of us have heard that in the last days, the Bible said children will be making children. I've heard that, pastors said that the Bible said that in the last days, the European dollar would be the main trading currency. And a whole set of other things. All right. What about even in Revelation with the beasts and this, they will tell you that the beast in Daniel is kingdoms, but in Revelation it actually talking about devils that actually gonna come and rule in the last days. All right, which it just based off of what men say and not what actually in the scriptures, as the scriptures say these things are allegory. All right, a lot of things, especially visions, are things that you have to, as the scripture says, he wrote them here a little and there a little. So you have to go through precept upon precept, line upon line, all right, to basically decipher the Bible. But not only precepts, but also history. All right, history is another key component, and the right history at that is another key component to understanding the scriptures. Because as I mentioned, the beasts in Daniel and in Revelation, you need history and also current events to understand certain scriptures in the Bible. All right, this is 1 John chapter 4 and verse 1. It says, "Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of Yahweh, because many false prophets are gone out into the world." All right, and it says, don't believe every spirit, but try them. You try them to see if these things are true or not. All right, try them to see. If they say something, as the scripture says in 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 2, one of my favorite scriptures, he says, "The thing that thou hast heard of me amongst many witnesses, the same commit thou unto faithful men that will be able to teach others also." So we come into this truth basically to learn how to teach. We're being taught how to teach. All right, and therefore we can't just be dependent on the apostles to just spoon feed us, where we like sponges, where we just like suck up. So all we could do is just regurgitate all the things that we devoured down. Because let's say the apostles taught us, I mentioned that in a video a while back. Let's say the apostles taught us 1 plus 9 is 10, 2 plus 8 is 10, 3 plus 7 is 10, 4 plus 6 is 10. All right, and so that. All right, so 1 plus 9, 2 plus 8, that is 10. But then someone comes and asks you, what is 9 plus 1, or what is 7 plus 3, or what is 6 plus 4? So they ask you the other way around, and you be like, you're scratching your head. You can't answer. Because why? Because you didn't thoroughly go through the scriptures, or when the apostles teach, you try to go into it to understand. This truth is not just about memorizing scriptures or memorizing breakdowns. It's about understanding them. The apostles go into a breakdown. You make sure you understand thoroughly. You go through, you do reading, and from reading you'll be able to add more precepts to it. You go into the history of things so you understand it fully, instead of just being spoon fed, being a parrot, and then you can't you know expound on things fully. All right, and that is a good way for somebody to actually throw you off your feet, make you start a doubt. All right, because you go out there and you say, well, the days with the apostles taught me and they never taught me this, and then this person who they might look like, what they say, let's say they went to some theologian school, so they have a little idea of history or whatnot, but the history not coinciding with the scriptures, because let's say they have a lot of profound history on the Holocaust. All right, and the scriptures talk about Israel going into captivity, and they say that the Holocaust actually matches up with Deuteronomy 28. But let's say you don't know anything about the Holocaust, or you never really went into Deuteronomy 28 and went into the history of the slavery of the so-called Negroes, then therefore that person could probably convince you that the Holocaust is talking about Deuteronomy 28. All right, let's say you never went into the history of, I believe it's in Ezekiel 28, when they talk about the king of Tyre. It says basically the church says that they're talking about Satan. He says that was perfect from the beginning and whatnot. But when you go into the history, that's actually talking about the king of Tyrus. What about Isaiah chapter 14? Isaiah 14 is talking about the king of Babylon. If you don't go into these things, if the scripture says, study to show thyself approved, if you don't study, if you don't put the effort in, if you don't go into these things and study it, you basically just gonna remain on one level and it easy. And that is why a lot of times you see people, they say, well, oh, Hebrew Israelite this and Hebrew Israelite that, and I was once a Hebrew Israelite and this, and because why? Because they were just on a parrot level. They were just spoon-fed, and somebody just came easily and overthrew them. All right, the apostles, through the Spirit of the Most High, it was revealed unto them that the MOTB is the RFID hip, and that can be proven through the scriptures, through current events, and even the wicked knows that that is the MOTB. All right, but let's say like Nate just up and say that is embargo, and then you might say, no, it makes more sense to me that is embargo. It might make more sense to you, but is it correct? Is it correct? Can you back it up? Can you bring proof to back it up? All right, can you bring, let's say the apostles, they do a breakdown, or the elders, they do a breakdown, and they say that there are natural Gentiles and there are unnatural Gentiles. Let's say years before they really went into the breakdown, but YouTube, they delete videos, so that video no longer surfacing. And years later, they just vaguely referenced it. They never went into the words. You now coming up and you just listening. All right. And you going about, you say natural Gentiles are the other nations and the unnatural Gentiles are Israelites. And then someone brings a scripture and says, so what about this scripture? It says to the Jew and to the Gentiles. So then they're saying that, hey, this Gentile is talking about the other nations. How are you going to prove it? Then they might start to sway your mind, and you start to believe that, yeah, you know what, probably because the scripture says God is love, and they use all different precepts to come to a wicked interpretation. Whereas if you applied yourself to know knowledge, to understand the word of the Lord, you would have gone into those words. All right? Gone into the words to understand what was the original word that was there, what was the Greek or the Hebrew interpretation for the word. And then that could actually concrete your faith, so that anybody that comes after, they can't sway your mind and turn you from believing in the truth. And the reason I'm doing this lesson, as it says, proof eliminates doubt. You need to study the scriptures properly. The scripture says, study to show thyself approved, a workman needed not to be ashamed. rightly dividing the word of truth. You have to rightly be able to break it down. Don't just remain at a parrot level where you just, you just comfortable with, probably having headsets in your ears, hearing the apostles do a breakdown. You're not writing down precepts, you're not looking up words, you're not going to the history, you're not doing anything like that. You're not matching up precept upon precept. You're just satisfied with just hearing they speak, and then that is as much as that is as far as you will go. Your faith wouldn't be concrete. Because trust me, it would be very easy for someone with just a little bit more knowledge than you to actually overthrow your belief in the scriptures. This says Job 34 and verse 1. It says, furthermore, Elihu answered and said, hear my words, O ye wise men, and give ear unto me, ye that have knowledge. For the ear tried words as the mouth tasted meat. So yeah, the ear tried words. You don't just hear something and just run with it. You go into it and you make sure, as the scripture says in John 5, it says, search the scriptures, in them think it you have hope. Alright? These are they that testify of me. Search the scriptures. Alright? If somebody makes reference to something, don't just run with it and make it doctrine. You make sure that it's in the scriptures. You make sure that you could prove it. You make sure that you could find it in the scriptures. Alright? If you hear, like the men of IUIC, the leaders saying that, the name of the Lord not important, don't just go about saying that. You go in the scriptures to see if that is true. Because it could be proven through the scriptures, through breaking on the scriptures, through going into the Hebrew of the scriptures and history. You could go into history of the Misha Steli, all right? And it could prove it, all right? That the Most High name is Yahweh. Even in movies, they show you, where they show North American Indians, they would actually call upon the name of the Lord, all right? Let's say the apostles, they break down that the North American Indians, they are of the tribe of Israel, right? The North American Indians, the Tainos, the Boricuas, and all these so-called Indian tribes are also Israelites. All right, you believe that. But then someone come and says that these weren't people of Israel. These were Polynesian people that came through the Bering Strait. And, they'll pull out some history and it's like, yeah, you see, look. And you're like, yeah, the apostles going off. But you never went into the right history. All right? What about men like James Adair, who wrote about the history of the North American Indians? He concluded that these are the lost tribes of Israel. What about history about Montezuma's? Montezuma's, he spoke about the history of his people, that they came to this land from over many waters. Also, I believe I was among the Aztecs, that they had a clay tablet or a clay receipt with the Assyrian star on it. And when you go into history, you can see the same star recorded among the Assyrians. Which the reason they would have had that receipt, because they were amongst the captivity amongst the Assyrians, beginning with Shalmaneser the fifth. All right. They might say that the apostles would tell you that, hey, the Negroes, all right, which make up the house of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, are Israelites. And then some will say, hey, look, history here showing that these are Africans, all right. But then when you dig deeper into history, you would realize that it was only in the later half of history they call us Africans. We sang songs like Kumbaya, Rise and Come. We sang songs like Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, Coming Forth to Carry Me Home. I looked over Jordan and what did I see? Coming Forth to Carry Me Home. There was even reported that there were in captivity in America, I believe, that a so-called African, all right, he said that his people were Israelites. He was an African prince. It was in a newspaper article. It's a while I read it, all right. And he spoke Hebrew. All right? He spoke Hebrew. When you go into history, like, Nature Knows No Color Line, or Valley of Dry Bones, or From Babylon to Timbuktu, these history coincide with the Bible. So what proof does, proof actually concretes your faith and actually eliminates doubt. So you need to study. Don't just be a mockingbird. Don't just have your headsets in the ear, Bluetooth headsets, and just listen or breakdown and you good. You do research also to concrete your own faith, because you came here to learn to teach, not to learn to be a mockingbird. All right? You came here to learn to teach. All right? This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 21. It says, prove all things, hold fast to that which is good. So if we deal with this in face value, it says prove all things, and prove means to bring out proof, right? To prove wherever you're saying, right? But all right, let's look up the word proof. Let's see what the word proof means there, because as I said, you look up the words. This 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 21. And they go into the interlinear. All right, this is learning how to, as the scripture says, rightly dividing the word of truth. This was taught to us by the, beginning with the apostle Tahar. All right, well, that is why these are the men of the Lord, because they rightly dividing the word of truth. All right, through the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, because first you have to be led by the spirit of the Most High, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, to even match precepts and coincide it with history and current events like news and whatnot. All right, Satan had to play the internet just lagging for no reason. All right, so here we are. It says prove all things. Right, and it says, just wait a second. All right, so I'm pressing the audio and it is not playing. All right, so I'll just read. It says prove. It comes from the Greek transliteration. It says dokimazo. It says dokimazo, right? It says to test, examine, prove, scrutinize, to see whether a thing is genuine or not, as metals, to recognize as genuine after examination, to approve, deem worthy. So when it says prove all things, it means to test it. All right, just as we read before, it says, beloved, try the spirits. When you say try it, it means what? Test it, examine it, prove it, scrutinize. All right, the MOTB's embargo, you test it, you scrutinize, you go into the history, you go into the current events, you go through the scriptures. All right, the scripture says when you set a mark, it goes back to charagma. Charagma means to prick or stick or a stamp. Is embargo a stamp? Is Christianity a stamp? Is the worship of white Jesus a stamp? All right, it says to recognize as genuine after examination. So you don't just believe everything, you examine it. After examination, that is what proof does. Proof eliminates doubt, because proof, when you go through the proof and you realize it's true, after examination, then you say, yes, you in the truth. You're not saying you in the truth just because everybody's saying the truth. Anybody could say they're in the truth. Christians believe they're in the truth. Rastafarians believe they're in the truth. Muslims believe they're in the truth. But you only believe you're in the truth after you can prove what you are saying. After by examination, after you have proved what the doctrine is, then you could go boldly and say, hey, this is the truth. All right? Just like, Wales. Let me see Wales. Hey, the virgin birth. A lot of people say, nah, Mary never had sex. What was so immaculate? What was so special about the Lord if Mary was not virgin? So, all right. If the Lord have to be so special that he had to be born of a virgin, then why didn't the Lord just, make a baby appear just like Melchizedek? It could have been done that way. If Joseph, if the Lord too special to have a father, isn't he too special that he didn't need a mother? Isn't the Lord Yahweh powerful enough that he could have just let Yahweh appear? prove all things. When you go through the scriptures, Mary and Joseph were in fact together. They just didn't have the ceremony. When you go into history of wedding, was a 3-step process. First step, the father, the husband go and talk to the father, and they come to the verbal agreement. The second step was the transaction, where he would have paid the dowry. From there, he would have received a receipt when you go into the history. And from there, that is considered him. From there, anybody that has sex with this woman would have been committing adultery, because it is now his property, whether he had sex with her or not. And then would have been the ceremony where the witnesses would have come together, from the city, and where they would have had the nuptial chamber, where the actual act of sex would have happened. All right, and they never reached to this point where with the coming together, as the scripture said, before they came together. All right, they never had the chamber and whatnot. Basically, they couldn't wait. All right, they were both hot, and they needed to get a thing done. All right, and that is where proof comes in. You search the scriptures to see if these things are true. You don't just believe what somebody says. You search it. And searching the scriptures also builds your understanding of the scriptures and makes you into a proper teacher. All right? All right? Next precept. And as I said, you have to be led by the Spirit. That is why Yahushua said, other shepherds will they not hear, because my sheep hear my voice. Because as I said, you have to first be led by the Spirit. You're going to hear that voice saying, this is the way. Walk you in it. Walk you in it. All right? This is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 24. It says, for there shall arise false, I read verbatim, Christ, and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders. Yeah, they could do breakdowns, just like these two men are one, this other guy who were in the Mississippi camp, and they saying that that we are already in the second covenant. They brought out scriptures, but then guess what? They bypassed and omitted a whole plethora of scriptures that shows that we are not under the second covenant, but actually transitioning. Now, is there a scripture that says we are transitioning? No, but through precept upon precept, we could conclude that we are in that transitioning period. All right? Because we still have to keep the laws. We're still in this flesh. The second covenant, we wouldn't be able to sin. Because we are in this flesh and able to sin proves that we are not under the second covenant, but preparing ourselves for the second covenant, just like Israel was in the wilderness, preparing themselves for the first covenant to enter into the kingdom. And it's the same thing we're doing now. So yeah, men could bring out precepts to bring out a doctrine, but guess what? It don't have to be true. That is why you prove all things. You test them. All right? It says, for there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, in so much that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. And they wouldn't be able to deceive the elect. It says, if it were possible. Then the scripture says, none can take them out of my Father's hand. When you go into Matthew 24, all right, Matthew chapter 24, and we look up the word deceive.
Strong's G 4105, planao.
And it means to cause to stray, to lead aside from the right way, to go astray, wander, roam about. Metaphor is to lead away from the truth, to lead into error, to deceive. So you're not going to be able to lead the elect away, because other men's voices will they not hear. The sheep hear the voice of Yahweh Shemi Shai. So first of all, your faith, as the scripture says, flesh and blood had not revealed this unto you. Your faith firstly going to come just by hearing. Faith coming by hearing, and hearing by the words of the Lord Yahweh Shemi Shai. That is how faith gonna begin, but your faith gonna be concreted when you start to be able to prove the things that you first heard. All right? says what? It says to be led aside from the path of virtue, to go astray, sin, to sever or fall away from the truth. So none of the elect, it says none have lost, but the son of perdition, the Lord not gonna lost none of the elect. Because why? Because the elect gonna prove all things. They're gonna search them out, they're gonna search the scriptures, and they're gonna prove them through the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, breaking them directly and completely. Right? They're gonna break them down directly and completely. This is the final precept here. This is Acts 17 and 11. After that, verse 10, it says, and the brethren immediately sent away Paul and Silas by night unto Berea, who coming thither went into the synagogue of the Jews. So yes, so let's say this is the first time the men of Berea are hearing this word, just like any of us would have heard it for the first time. It says, these were more noble than they of Thessalonica. It says, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind. So yeah, they receive it. They receive the word. They faith. They heard the word for the first time. They believe it. And they didn't only believe it, and search the scriptures daily whether those things were so. So they believed it, but guess what? They searched the scriptures. All right, they searched the scriptures. They made sure, hey, you know what? Let me really search the scriptures to see if these things that being read to us and spoken unto us are actually true. And then they did so, and guess what? It was true. And that is what the Lord looking for, men that are willing to use their heads. All right, when you look up the word noble, it says well born of a noble mind. All right. So basically, they know they had that integrity within themselves. You know what? Here, what? Let's make sure where we believe in. All right. Yeah. So let's look up. Let me see what readiness of mind say. All right. Receive the word of readiness of mind. It says what? Zeal, spirit, eagerness, inclination, readiness of mind. So they received it with real zeal. They were happy to hear this word. But as I said, they weren't only happy to hear it, they also had to make sure what they believed in. And after making sure what they believed in, it concreted their faith. They added upon it. All right? Because the scripture says one planted, the other water it. But the Lord gave the increase. So you have to increase. The scripture says always abounding in the work of the Lord. This is always abounding. This is about always abounding. Let's say that you come into this truth, right? And the apostles, they don't groan. But let's say you come into this truth and, you here for years. And all you did was just remain at a baby level, at a parrot level, where you just soaked up what the apostles said, as in, you just listen to breakdowns and you have a good memory, so you memorize the breakdown, and then you become a camp leader. And all you could do is just regurgitate what you heard. And then when questions start to come, you can't answer it. Then what you've been doing all the years, that is why you have to search the scripture, you have to break it down, you have to be able to understand words, understand the Greek, understand the Hebrew, understand the history, understand the sciences behind the whole truth. And then you will be a proper teacher. All right? So this is not just about sitting back and let other men do all the work. This is about laboring. All right? This is about laboring. All right? So with that, I hope it was edifying. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. I want to give double honors to the apostles of great mercy and do rule well. Salutation to the men of the hopeful and saints elect. This is a brother out here in Trinidad, Macazar, saying shalom and stay strong. Shalom.